Hello, my name is Eric Tarr. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to set up mix bus compression on 2 or more submix buses. It used to be that a mixing engineer would send a single completed full mix onto the mastering engineer. Now it's becoming more commonplace for the mixing engineer to print individual stems of different groups, like vocals and instruments, separately. If you're a mixing engineer that likes to mix into bus compression, this kind of scenario can be difficult because you'd like to use a compressor that responds to the entire mix and glues everything together. However, if you're supposed to keep your stems separate, you cannot just simply insert a compressor on your vocal stem and have it automatically respond to the full instrument and vocal mix. Here's an example. Let's say I have this pop rock song with vocal and instrument subgroups over here. I've got a bus compressor inserted on my mix bus. It sounds like this.
Trouble bound, we hit the town.
You can see that when I've got my instrument group and my vocal group routed to my mix bus, that the compressor is responding to both of these signals. However, if I want to just print my vocal bus separate from my instrument bus, I could do something like mute my instrument bus over here. Now, when I press play, or if I were to bounce this to disk, the instrument group is no longer going to be hitting the compressor, so the compressor only responds to just the vocal bus. You can see that happening here. The metering is going on my instrument bus, but the compressor isn't responding until the vocals come in.
Trouble bound.
Now the compressor is going to be applying gain reduction to my vocals differently than if I had the instrument bus going through the compressor as well. Here's a technique that I came up with to set up mix bus compression on 2 or more submix buses by using sidechain compression. To begin with, let's say I want to use the API 2500 as my mix bus compressor. I need to set up the sidechain signal composed of both the instrument and vocal subgroups that I can feed into the key input of the plugin that's going to trigger my compressor. There's many different ways to go about doing this. Here's one method that I came up with that works for routing the signal inside of Pro Tools. The first thing I did is I created duplicate versions of my subgroups, one for the instrument group, one for the vocal group. I'm going to be using these for the sidechain though. I'll mute the original ones now. I'll come back to these in a second. So my sidechain groups, they have the identical input as my originals. The only difference is that the output, instead of going to my main mix, it's going to a bus that I call the mix sidechain. This is going to be the bus that eventually feeds the sidechain of my mix bus compressor. So these signals are being blended together at this bus and eventually being routed over to my compressor. For now, what I'm actually going to do is set up a temporary bus where I can monitor the sidechain signal and listen back to it and copy the compressor over just temporarily so that I can dial in the settings I want based on listening to my sidechain signal. So this is being routed to the main mix. So I know for my mix bus compression, I want to have kind of a medium slow attack, a low ratio, and a medium release. Then it's just a matter of dialing in the threshold that I like based on the input signal.
Trouble bound, we hit the town.
So that's the effect I'm going for, very subtle, but not too much compression. All right, so I've got the signal right now, the sidechain signal going into the compressor. What I'm going to do is actually move this back over to my mix bus now, and then set up the sidechain signal going in here. The one thing that's tricky about this is that Pro Tools only allows you to have mono sidechain signals or mono key inputs. So you can't do this perfectly, but for the most part, you can get almost all the way there for what your intention is for doing. So I'm going to go in here to the bus, find my mono. I'm going to just by default decide to choose the left one, but you could choose the right one and it would be the same thing. All right, so now I have the signal being routed from my mix sidechain over here to the compressor. What I'm actually going to do is mute this so that it's no longer going to my main output. I'm going to just pan these to the center so that what my compressor sees is a signal that's balanced from the left and the right, both going out the same channel. Okay, so if I press play, right now there's no signal. It's actually going down my master fader, but you'll see the compressor is responding and applying some gain reduction. All right, if I bring back in my mix of both the instrument bus and the vocal bus, you'll hear the compression taking place. That's occurring because of the sidechain signal, but affecting the vocal bus and the instrument bus together.
Trouble bound, we hit the town.
Now when I go to print one of the instrument stems or the vocal stems, I can mute the output of my subgroup, but have the compressor still respond to the full mix. So here's an example. I'll mute the instrument bus. Watch the compressor. The vocals won't come in for a little while, but you still see the compressor starting out at the beginning to show that it's responding to both the instrument and the vocal. So there you have it. This is how you can set up mix bus compression on 2 or more submix buses.
Trouble bound, we hit the town. I'll never forget